It was the 15th of December, 1984. I was 12 at the time. Please don't do that maths. It was the first day of the school holidays, a Saturday morning, and I was going Christmas shopping. I was really excited. Mum had given me some money. I had my shopping list. I even felt quite grown up, the idea of going to town by myself. Mum dropped me off. She was to pick me up 2 hours later. She didn't pick me up. My neighbour did. The neighbour quickly explained that my dad had had an accident. He'd be okay. I needed to go back to her house for a while. When we drove into the street, there were so many cars, and I realised they were outside my house. I recall standing in our neighbour's lounge in front of this huge window and looking directly across to my house. We had a single-level red brick home with a veranda that ran right across the front, covered in wisteria. And as I stood there watching, I noticed the police car and the ambulance. And lots of people, some of them I knew, others I didn't. My neighbour kept trying to encourage me away from the window. She wanted me to play with her daughter, have something to eat, something to drink. I knew what she was doing. I just stayed and kept watching. And I kept asking to go home. Please let me go home. And after a while, another car came. This one was different. It was black. It was long. It was a hearse. And still my neighbour kept telling me that my dad would be okay. In that moment, I knew that he wasn't. I knew that my dad had died. And soon I would learn that he died by suicide. Unfortunately, my experience of losing a loved one to suicide as a child is not uncommon. According to the World Health Organization, over 700,000 people die by suicide each year. That's one suicide every 40 seconds. Another 18 people will have taken their life before I finish speaking. 1 in 5 adolescents are impacted by suicide loss before they reach adulthood. 1 in 5. The research is really clear that the right support at the right time can make a significant difference for the bereaved. In the context of suicide, the right support saves lives. Yet I've been working in the suicide space for over 20 years now, and I know all too well that there's not enough support for children. There wasn't enough when I was a child, and frankly, not enough has changed. That's why I'm standing here today. I'm keen to share the findings of my research in which I've explored the care and support experiences of children impacted by suicide loss. Because in order for us to know how best to support these children, we need to understand from them what they find helpful. Using an approach called phenomenology, I explored the care and support experiences of 10 children following the suicide of someone close to them. I literally went into these children's homes, carrying a container of toys, of course, and I sat on the floor alongside each of these children. And as we played together, I asked them 3 key questions. What was helpful for you? What was unhelpful? And what would ideal care and support have looked like for you? And despite their young ages, these children were very clear in their responses. What they experienced as helpful and unhelpful was truly unique to them. Uniqueness was a key finding of my research. To demonstrate this uniqueness, let's meet two of the children I interviewed, Ivy and Luna. Ivy. Ivy was 11 at the time of the interview. Her older brother, her only sibling, had died by suicide 6 months earlier. When I asked Ivy what was helpful for her, she talked of playing with the animals and watching YouTube. These were activities that, using Ivy's words, allowed her to feel normal. Ivy was sensitive to the fact that everything was different in her life now. Her family was different. She felt different from her friends. People treated her differently, except those animals. Ivy shared with me her experience of returning to school after her brother had died. Quoting Ivy, "When I went back to school, they treated it, acted like it was a normal day. Like, I want to feel normal, I want to be normal, but they didn't even acknowledge that he was dead. They acted like nothing had happened, like I'd been on holiday or something. Ivy had assumed that she would be well taken care of when she went back to school. Instead, she felt invisible. Not only that what had happened didn't matter, but that she didn't matter." Ivy craved a sense of normality, and yet it was also important to her that those caring for her acknowledge what had happened and continue to talk about her brother. Luna. Luna was 9 at the time of the interview. Luna's older sister had died by suicide 2 years prior. When I asked Luna what was helpful for her, she immediately responded, forgetting about it. Luna had learned early on that keeping herself busy was helpful. It stopped her from thinking about her sister. She busied herself by drawing and playing on her phone and having fun with her friends. Luna also shared with me her experience of returning to school. Quoting Luna, "They were helpful. We just did it like a normal day." Luna's teacher knew what had happened and yet didn't acknowledge this in any way. Luna was relieved by this response. She felt cared for. Luna felt sad when she thought about her sister, and she didn't want to be sad at school. Luna felt cared for when people didn't acknowledge what had happened and when they didn't talk about her sister. What Ivy and Luna experienced, what they needed, was very different. In addition to the children having these different needs, I also found that their needs fluctuated and changed. So what a child identified or found helpful one day, the next day that same child might find unhelpful. In addition to looking to understand what was helpful and unhelpful for these children, through my research I also sought to identify what it means to a child to be cared for and supported after suicide loss. What is the essence of that phenomenon of care and support? The essence was mattering. The children only experienced behaviours intended to be caring and supportive as caring and supportive when those behaviours reinforced to them that they mattered. Importantly, the children wanted the loss and their grief to matter to those caring for them, and they wanted to be seen and understood as being separate to their grief also, and for them as individuals to matter too. Mentoring was a critical aspect of care and support for these children. There were two key aspects to mentoring: agency and emotional safety. Agency for the children was about having voice and choice. They wanted those caring for them to ask them what they most needed, rather than assume to know. When care was provided based on assumed needs, there was often this mismatch between the care provided and actually what the children most needed. Children need to have a voice. They need to be able to let the adults caring for them know what it is they most need, given that uniqueness of their needs. Knowing that what was important to and for them was also important to those caring for them allowed the children to know that they mattered. Agency allowed the children to experience care as a partnership, not as something done to them, but as something done with them. The second aspect of mentoring was emotional safety. So the children wanted agency in their care, and they wanted to be cared for in a way that allowed them to feel safe and understood. Having a genuine connection with those caring for them was a key aspect of this. A genuine connection built on trust and empathy. And where they felt safe, they felt less alone in their grief. And of course, they knew that they mattered. The children shared experiences of being cared for by people where there was that beautiful, genuine connection. They also shared experiences of being cared for by professionals and others who were effectively strangers to these children. And yet these adults expected the children to share their most private and difficult experiences with them without first having made any attempt to get to know these children or build a connection. The children described those experiences as awkward, uncomfortable, and too professional. Care provided in the absence of a genuine connection was experienced as token care, not genuine care. I truly believe that these findings have the potential to transform not only the way that children bereaved by suicide, but all grieving children are cared for and supported. My hope is that all grieving children will be cared for in a mattering, reinforcing way, with children being seen as active agents in their care and support, recognised as the experts in their own needs, and where care can be led by them. I open this talk today sharing a part of my own personal story that I have never voiced before. I also gave voice to Ivy and Luna's very personal accounts. And I did so in the hope that each of you, might then be able to connect with these research findings, not only intellectually, but emotionally also. Because caring differently for grieving children is not about what everyone else does. It starts right here. Right here. It starts with each of us connecting to that something inside of us that reacts when we hear or we think about grieving children feeling invisible or uncared for. And that part within us that just knows that grieving children deserve better. It starts with each of us committing to care for the grieving children in our own lives in a matter and reinforcing way. Because then and only then will grieving children be able to experience care that is truly responsive to their unique needs. They will know that they have been heard and seen, and they will know that they truly matter.